Hi, welcome back to No BS. I'm your host, Christopher Houston. We are, we took a week off, so I apologize for that, but we got wrapped up into a few things. I'm going to move this around a little bit for now because it's just me on the air, so we'll just keep two views of me for now. A lot of things have changed in the past 2 or 3 weeks, so we're going to talk about that a little bit. We may have some late guests joining us. If we do, we do. If we don't, we don't. And we're going to talk about some things that are going to be happening here in the next 2.5 to 3.5 weeks on personal notes so that you guys are prepared for all of that. Big things in the air for this summer, so keep your fingers crossed and keep your eyes out for all of that. So let's talk a little bit about Dodge and all of these situations that are going on. I'm going to get into a little bit of detail on a couple of things so that you guys are really aware of situations, okay? Um, the first part of this was when they discontinued the DEI. Now, just so that you know, the DEI is basically it's a more. I'm not going to break it down for you, but it's a morality society, a set of codes and ethics and rules that everybody should abide by in the school systems and yada yada yada. First off, the organization didn't need to be made in the first place. You could have made the suggestion, and then schools and corporations set their own ethnic policies on how you treat people, how you treat male and female, how you handle situations, and so forth. So that whole situation, contrary to belief, was a useless waste of money. But it is ironic that the DEI funded some of the most highly liberal programs in the United States of America during its time, including transgender surgery, extension in abortion clinics to include youth change in sexuality, and a handful of other things that were a waste of taxpayer dollars that go against American morals. Now, I know some of you looking at this are going, well, Chris, what's the matter with somebody that wants to be a transgender or wants to change their gender? There is nothing wrong with that in America. We don't care. That is your decision. But you need to understand that not only what you're doing affects yourself, but odds are if you weren't born with two genders in the first place, and if you're my age or even 18 years old, if you were born with two genders, you've had the chance to change that gender, and so did your parents, by the way, to one that would fit you. Way before now, you need to understand that it's a mental instability. And by supporting that mental instability, you're not getting the mental health that you need. And you are mentally insane. That's plain and simple. It is not an imbalance in your hormones. It is not an imbalance in anything except for your mental thinking. And I can tell you from personally from hanging out with psychologists and therapists for a number of years in many universities and colleges that 90% of the people that want to change their gender halfway through their life and go from a male to a female or a female to a male have had mental instabilities such as sexual abuse or other things going on their whole life. So, though it's your choice when you become an adult on what you want to do, and we as Americans should not see you any differently because of it, you need to understand that morally speaking, ignoring that situation, promoting it and saying it's okay means that we're allowing you to be mentally unstable for the rest of your life and possibly hurt yourself in the long run. And you will. And it is that simple there. So supporting these programs in the United States government should not only not happen, it should be 100% neutral. Why? Because our government is out for all of the peoples, not one of the peoples. And this is what we were founded on. When you fund these programs, and we're going to get into detail on why some of these programs were funded and why some of these programs are still around and why they're not and why you're seeing this, and you're going to see a lot worse when all this stuff comes out, just so you know, because I've worked behind the scenes, I know. Our government was designed to support all of the people, and that means that the government has to stand on a neutral standpoint for the whole country. Now, those decisions aren't necessarily going to be the right decisions from time to time. We're going to get into that too, because I'm going to show you how some of this hasn't worked to your advantage with the Republicans, and the Democrats just got caught because they got stupid with it, to be frankly honest with you. So let's get into USA Aid. USA Aid was funded many years ago, but was it actually used for aid? The first part of that question is yes. Most operations up until the past 6 to 8 years, under Democratic control in most cases, until Donald Trump came in and most of it just hushed up, and this time around got shut down because the last 4 years, did have aid involved in it, but it was not the only reason it was there. You got to keep in mind the word USA aid means to aid the United States of America. It doesn't mean to aid other countries, and it never has. It's a front. So USA, as an example, on some of the things that you may or may not know about, was used the first time it became known that it was used, because you saw it in the background, was during the Colombian drug wars. When Bush was in control, we had millions and millions and millions of pounds of cocaine traveling into the United States on a regular basis. We had a massive drug lord that had confronted us at the time and said there's nothing we can do about it. He'll do whatever the hell he wants. And he had an army behind him. The only way to stop that was to go into the Colombian countries and to fund another drug lord or a series of drug lords and have them overpower the first drug lord, hopefully keeping that drug lord under our control to make sure the cocaine stopped coming into the United States of America. But in order to do that, without breaking worldwide codes and worldwide rules and all these peace treaties and everything, we had to do it under a smokescreen. USA Aid built many churches across the Colombian area and funded many hospital vaccination areas across the Colombian area, while introducing military troops, funding them, and training Colombian drug lords that were smaller to take out this large Colombian drug lord. It was successful. It worked. Cocaine stopped coming in quite regularly to the United States of America. We had shut them down, and we had one drug lord that had said, I won't do that. The other small ones continued to do that. Of course, he was also responsible here in the past 20 years for transporting some of the largest opiates across Mexican borders and Colombian borders. So it bit us in the ass. And it did start in 1963, Bill. A very good statement. Bill says USA started in 1963. There was a reason it started in 1963 as well. So basically, the next time that you see USA Aid is in United Terrorist situations. You'll see pictures surfacing right now that have people from Israel behind there that says USA Aid in the background and so forth, because they built the bases for the training of people. USA Aid was responsible, as an example, for funding and training Saddam Hussein's troops. A part of their portion went into training all of that. We all know what happened with Saddam later. It bit us in the ass. But at the time, it was for USA purposes, for the United States to have a gain aiding the USA in one way, shape, or form. It was not for transgenders. It was not for transgender surgeries or ridiculous liberal or anti-liberal organizations to come in and say, this is what we believe. It was designed to aid the United States of America. And they would hide that by throwing aid programs in countries that we weren't supposed to be in without informing the country, so that way legally we could bring people in and out. Recently, and over the past 10 to 15 years, that type of hidden CIA and operations and covert operations to the DOD and so forth started to become more of a gaslight situation. What do I mean by that? Well, as we had learned that social media, and so forth could be controlled, we started to pay for the media. But you can't control the United States media quite as easy. You can control overseas medias, and then the United States media realizes on their payoffs they can just follow hand. So as an example, we paid Politico, we paid many other Great Britain stations, and we paid many social media people to paint a liberal agenda. And this is fact, okay? When you pay the overseas countries to not only talk bad about America, which they're going to do anyway, but enforce that in a particular way, then everybody believes the same thing as long as America's media follows along. And eventually America's media will follow along with everybody else, because media is about money, just like everything else. Then you take the online media sources, Daily News, all this other fake crap, and you pay those companies millions of dollars, and you find out that you see a bunch of false shit on social media that separates a nation and starts promoting liberal idealisms. Furthermore, you're going to find out one thing that you haven't found out yet. Social media stream networks are actually supported the same way. If you start looking at a lot of your advertisement, there's a reason why Hulu and Netflix and Peacock and all these other stations interrupt your commercials, even though you're in America. And have you ever noticed all you see is a Spanish commercial or an overseas commercial? Because they want to program that into your brain. You're in America. If you see Spanish commercials all the time, you'll accept Spanish people. It'll be fine. Everybody can live together, and we'll get our agenda through. These are the underlying things that you don't understand that helps program psychologically a brain. So you're finding out through a lot of these documents, a lot of this stuff is going on. You're also finding the deeper you get, they're fighting back by trying to put junctions in place, and they gave their first claims of impeachment this week over the stupidest thing. We'll get into that here in a minute. And so forth. For instance, this weekend, the New York judge turned down Donald Trump dodging any federal treasury or federal department from reviewing any accounting and paperwork involved from the state of New York. Of course, that's going to get overruled. The reason, just so you guys know, when you start requesting financial records from any organization that's federally funded, any state judge or even city judge, if it revolves around the city, can deny giving you those records. They don't in most cases because of what happened in Chicago with Al Capone and a couple other cities that corruption showed up. They don't deny this because the moment the judge denies this, the judge also admits that if the corruption's there, he knows. So they pass it off to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court makes the decision, and then usually the records are retrieved. If they deny it, then the city and state of New York can't say you can't have them. It's just not the way the federal law works. So now they've told Donald Trump, they told the United States Treasury, we're not going to give you the receipts. So now the United States Treasury has to file a warrant that's approved by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has to come in. They retrieve the warrant and approve the warrant, and then you go in and you take it anyway. So here's how that process works. It's going to take about 6 to 8 months, maybe even a year. And this judge knows this, so it's a great way to start shredding that digital trail. He's buying time because, guys, New York is crooked. Okay, they always have been. New York City has always been controlled by drug lords and whoever has the most power, and they pay off the police chiefs and the city and the county and blah 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 blah. It's always been that way. Chicago's the same way. So you have to understand what's going on right now. Basically, what's going on right now, if you look under the tracks, is you're starting to realize, and even some Democrats I've noticed are starting to realize that for the past almost 9 years, you have been under a coup. So when Donald Trump said that our United States was at risk, he was right. Because the Democrats were basically taking over the country. And they were using all these programs that were used for other reasons to do that. To manipulate your social media, to manipulate your bank systems, to manipulate how you get a job, to manipulate your vaccinations so that they could keep control of you literally over media and over what they told you. To manipulate overseas sources so that media came in inaccurately and publicized that way. A bunch of different sources to keep them in control and have more control. This is why even your ex-President Obama was cocky enough to go, well, I mean, we control it anyway. We'll do what we want to do on live television. And that's also why you heard it from Cortez. And that's also why you heard it from Pelosi. If you listened, because they were telling you there ain't shit you can do about it. We have control of it all. And now you're seeing that they did. So you're actually seeing the war's about at an end so far. There's nothing they can do to fire back. The question is, how are we going to treat it? Because there's a lot of illegal things that have come out. Now, here's the next step that's going to happen during these illegal phases of the past 4 to 6 years in order to cover it up. Since they're pulling 11 years to 12 years of paperwork, there's going to be a question on, well, was any of this used right? The answer is most of it wasn't, okay? It's just where you laundered the funds and how you laundered them. $2.1 billion on seeing how many squirrels are in the United States was probably used to create your next plane, spy plane. You just didn't know it. Until the last 4 years, because now $2.4 billion went to liberal social media sources to tell you it's okay to cut your penis off and get a vagina. And to worship the Democrats. And to join the rest of the world in this false presentation of liberal nonsense And socialism and liberalism is nonsense. It's ridiculous. Oh, boo hoo hoo, you can't say anything wrong or you hurt somebody's feelings. Don't worry. Just follow what's on media. It's all true. Hey, by the way, blah, blah. It's just a bunch of liberal bullcrap that's a lie. You can't always save the whale. The whale's still going to fucking die somewhere along the line. Sure, you should care about the whale if somebody's killing it. If there's only 16 whales left and they want to kill all 16 whales and eat them, and then there's no more whales left in the world. But if there's thousands and billions of whales out there and only 6 are being harpooned a year, well, life's a bitch. Go on. You're also going to find that a lot of these falsified programs in global warming and national weather and oceanography are all false fronts for other situations, because that's what we did with the money for over 80 years. Some of that started in the 1940s. Some of that's how we funded some of our war campaigns. And these days it was just manipulated because the Democrats thought they could fully take control and run down the Republican Party and run down the American people. And they found out that even if you manipulate voter systems to your advantage, which they did, contrary to what anybody wants to believe, even if you manipulate the media, even if you pay off the poll systems, which they did to make you think they were going to win, that sometimes the people will still find out, because we here in America just aren't that damn stupid. And eventually, as I told everybody at the very beginning of this, we're all going to team up one way or another when shit hits the fan and this starts falling apart. We're going to get tired of it and we're going to say we've had enough. And there's only 2 ways this goes. They lose or we make them lose. And guess what? They caved. Because Democrats don't know how to pick up a gun. They know how to manipulate a law and move money around. The American people know how to pick up guns. And it came down to 2 things in this last election. Run it all the way to the end and see if we can manipulate it to make it look to our advantage. And if we get caught, stop it and figure out where we screwed up. Because if we do win and they know, we're going to die. It was that simple. It really was. I knew thousands of people alone that I spoke to on a regular basis that was ready with a gun to take up arms and take over the United States of America. And that's a scary thing. We should never have gotten to that point. Now we're finding out that after we got to that point, this is what's going on. This is where our money's being spent. This is what's happening. And you'll notice a bunch of people are griping about it. First off, just so you guys are aware, when they say they're going to look into Medicare and Medicaid, they're not cutting your Medicare or Medicaid, okay? That's not the way it works. Although they could and save billions of dollars a year, they're also going to kill hundreds and thousands of Americans. But are you aware, as I put up this week, that Medicare and Medicaid alone has 27.3 million, if not more, dollars worth of offices that were put up each year that are empty. Not only are they empty, they still pay for the electric, the power. They have brand new computer systems in there that are upkeep on software at thousands of dollars a year, and there's nobody sitting there except for a secretary to take your paperwork and run a copy. No joke. Social Security is the same way. And this is just a handful of offices. By the way, I worked with a bunch of useless offices with the Department of Defense for over 23 years. I actually know a man and 5 other people in an office right now on the edge of the Pentagon. And do you know what he does? Their only job is to count how much paper we buy a year. And their offices get funded for over, I think, $150,000 worth of salaries and have a $1 million paycheck on it a year in funding. 5 people, they get about $100,000 a piece. $60,000 to $100,000 a piece. Just to simply count how many pieces of paper we use. Pretty sure you don't need that. That's just one example. So, you're going to find that we're spending a lot of money we shouldn't be spending. And that's a good thing, because that money is going to go back into the United States of America and give you what you need. He has no intentions on taking away your Social Security, your Medicare, your Medicaid. your veterans aid. But these programs have to be looked at and they have to be cut, people. It's just the way it is. Okay? You're going to find out that FEMA is not being used the way it is. I can tell you that from firsthand. I went to FEMA locations the past 2 fires heading towards California. The problem up in Nashville, Tennessee. I saw how trucks were being taken from needed supplies, by the way, being taken away. Nope, you can't go across that border. Sorry, too much fire. Seize the products, put FEMA stickers on them, put them in a tent, and never moved them to give help to those people. I know helicopters that were denied and sitting on helipads that could not fly in goods to people after the damages through the Tennessee, North Carolina, and other areas. They were sitting there. They weren't allowed to cross. They were told they were going to get shot down by FEMA people. Not kidding you. Were you aware that FEMA actually has armed guards? I bet you most of you in America don't even know that FEMA has a whole armed force. They literally run around with M16s. Check trucks, check your IDs as if you're in Nazi Germany. Won't let you cross the border. I'm not kidding you. I've been there. I've seen it. I know. So they should be looked at because there's a lot of questionable shit there. All of this stuff is important for us to get back to the America that we need, because the bottom line is, in order for America to succeed, we have to get back to those morals and standards that we had from, and now some of those morals had to change, of course, but the basic moral patriotic duty from the 1950s to the 1970s, before we had the hippie generation, no offense against anybody that served that, I know there was a lot of fun in it too, that our country has to come first in a lot of ways, and we have to fund it first, and we have to believe in it. We have to be willing to fight for it. And we have to be willing to walk first. You know what gets my goat? I won't get into this a little bit. I'm going to tell you what gets my goat, because it pissed me off going to drive my kid to school today. She's learned how to drive, by the way. I had to go out this week, tell you the racket on that, because that pissed me off too. So I have a car. I had an axle and a bearing that was going out. Took it to a mechanic. Instead of fixing the axle and bearing properly, which he did, and put a tire on there, he also popped a leak into my rack and pinion steering. So now I have a leak in my rack and pinion steering, and a $300 repair ended up a $700 repair. That's going to be a $1,000 repair because this asshole wants money. He's not going to get the money, by the way. I'm not taking the car back to him. I'm finding a way to shut him down. That's a whole other story. So in this process, I still got to take the kid back and forth to work. We got to figure out how to do things. My kid inherited $11,000 a little while back, and she used some of it to keep us afloat and invest in a few things herself. So I bought her a $6,000 car, making payments on it. We just got another car, so I had to go through all that stuff. In this process, I was taking her to school the other day, and she was talking about graduation because they still haven't told her when she's graduating, and they still haven't given me the information to buy the gown. Isn't that crazy? But that's a liberal school for you. So she's talking about that, and she interrupts it in the middle of it because I said, you're not going to wear your gown but once. I don't know why they want you to buy the gown instead of rent the gown. I rented mine, but you should buy your hat and your tassel, and you're probably going to lose that. And she came back, and I said, but graduation is a long drawn thing anyway. And she said, yeah, especially when this whole county is mostly Christian. And she paused, and I bitched her out right off the bat. No offense against anybody. I believe in every religion. But the United States of America was founded on Christian morality, okay? Back to life. And we were also founded the fact that it doesn't matter what religion you believe in, it's acceptable here in the United States of America unless it harms another person or harms an animal or does something illegal. So this tells you that our schools are preaching a liberal agenda, because one of the top agendas in liberal idealism is to bash Christianity. And I bitched her out for it. I told her right off the bat, look, you're going to stop that idealism right off the bat. I don't care if you're 18 or not. No daughter of mine is ever going to bash Christianity. And if you start doing it, I'll tell you what, I'm going to take your rights away and I'm going to put you in the military. And I can do that, by the way. Easily. Because it's true. Is that terrible to say to a daughter? Yeah, but I explained to her why. I am Christian. I am proud to be Christian. I was raised a Christian. Now, I don't follow all the Christian moralities, and I will tell you there are some Christians I don't believe in because they're assholes. You can't push it down somebody's throat just because you believe in God. Everybody has their own beliefs, and in America, you're welcome to have those beliefs. That's the way we are. But when you're pushing it on our children about to graduate, then they don't care. They don't care about our American morals. They don't care about our Christian morals. They don't care about religion, and they think it's all nonsense. And the Democrats almost got away with it. If you are smart out there in America and you're listening tonight, you would take your children aside and you would start training them properly now. Because I'm betting I'm not the only parent that overlooked that for too fucking long. Because the realism is, if you don't teach your children right from wrong and you don't teach your children American morals, then when we do go to war, we're fucked, because the first thing they're going to do is not fight for us. They're going to bend over backwards and they're going to give the country away. And now that we actually have somebody looking into everything and preaching all of this, they're getting reamed left and right for it. Every social media source is trying to find any way they can to make Donald Trump and J.D. Vance look like a bad person. But I want you to ask yourself something here. And we're going to get into this here in a second. Cheap ass peach soda. In the past 2 weeks, we have saved this country, in the first week, $26.3 million. We are now going on $2.1 billion worth of savings in 2 weeks. I cut my finger so it looks kind of awful there. We're going on our third week at $2.6 billion worth of savings and increasing. Your gas prices are stable. Have you seen them go much up past 5 or 10 cents here and there? The answer is no, you haven't. We've opened negotiations, not in 1, not in 2, not in 3, but going on 4 locations to reduce shipping costs, trade costs, tariff costs. We have less immigrants than we ever have had in the past 5 years on our borders, and we're feeling safer. Can you say the same thing in the first 2.5 to 3 weeks that Joe Biden took control? The answer is no, you can't. So unless this goes sour somewhere along the line, well, guess what? You got a better government. Now, if it goes sour, on the other side, you have the right to say, I told you so. Here's what's going to happen. You just went through 4.5 years and you couldn't say shit. You're going to go through these 4 years and you still can't say shit. Yummy goo. So that's my big point in these situations, is use some common sense. Start thinking about things. If you don't think doing your checks and balances is a good thing, then that's probably why you're broke. Because doing your checks and balances is key in business, okay? Right now, most of my business is liquid. It's going in from one area and out the other area. And my checkbooks don't look very good at all because it's all liquid asset going in and going right back out, going in and going right back out, going in and going right back out. Eventually, that'll stabilize. Doing my checks and balances is how I stay alive, to make sure the bills are paid while it's going in and going out. If I overspend, I go broke. And you're no different. None of you are. So stop acting like you are and stop posting blame where blame doesn't need to be posted because you don't like a man. Get over your ego, because you're crazy if you don't. So let's talk a little bit about a couple of things that happened this week. The reason they were screaming impeachment is because Donald Trump made a statement on live air while he was being interviewed. Yes, perhaps maybe it's better if we do have control of Gaza. Now, those of you that don't know what Gaza is a centralized point for the Hamas. It has been utilized as a point for military strategy, but not only military strategy because the Hamas owns it. It's a transport area for goods to come in and out of the area and also be transported across the Slim Sea around there. He who has control of the Gaza border has not only a military standpoint, but again a way to lower tariffs and increase transportability across the United States of America and surrounding countries. So when he says it would be better off if we controlled Gaza, he's not really bullshitting it. It would be better if we controlled Gaza, because not only do we have a key military standpoint to stop Israel and other countries from all the terrorism coming and going, but we also, through conducting a deal with the Hamas, not necessarily a good thing, because the Hamas are evil bastards too, but nonetheless they're in control of Gaza, allows them to be happy with the United States, okay, make money, and get lower transport good rates while conducting a military efficiency that keeps them under control. What's wrong about that? I ask you. Well, there's nothing wrong about that, because right after he said it, China made a bid, Russia made a bid, UK made a bid, in Europe, they all want Gaza. Same fucking thing happened with the Panama Canal. I know you guys see Donald Trump as a man that says stupid shit sometimes because he doesn't think it through. But sometimes those voiced things that he says are well strategized. He knows what he's saying is going to cause controversy and open doors. Okay? So when he gives a statement about Gaza, think about what it just did. It put the USA in headlines and made people realize how important the area was, and opened up a bidding war that we can win, or even one of our allies that now have access to it could win, and then we succeed, they succeed, blah, 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 blah. So the same thing happened with the same reasoning behind the Panama Canal. Because of the Panama Agreement, Carter actually did sell this. This is something that's kind of true. Because of the Panama Agreements, the United States of America sold the Panama Canal for exactly $1 to those that were in control of it. Those agreements were to hand over the canal so that they could control all shipping lanes and decide who was going to purchase in the highest and who was going to control it at the time. And eventually, the Chinese government ended up controlling the vast majority and causing high import and export just to go through the canal every single day for transportation on our equipment. So when Donald Trump said we should take the canal, everybody panicked. We're going to war. No, it was because he opened it up and everybody realized, well, shit, somebody should take control of that canal. And in return, guess where it is now? We have control of the canal because of good business agreements. He said the same thing confronting Canada. We should merge Canada and make it ours. The Canadian government got pissed off and said, oh, no, it's a real threat. He believes it. The idealism was to get you to start thinking and get Canada to start thinking, too, when you raise the high tariffs for not accepting their people back into their borders, and renegotiate properly. So the first renegotiation we needed to do would stop illegals from crossing through the Canadian border, because we can enforce our borders, but we can't enforce the Canadian borders. We had been negotiating that with Canada for 4 years, by the way. Joe Biden wasn't lying there. He just didn't succeed at it. So Donald Trump comes in and says, hey, look, you're going to take these damn people and push them back over there. You're going to enforce your borders, and you're going to give us lower trade routes costs, or we're going to increase your tariffs to 25%. You just can't bring shit in. And within 24 hours, they started to cave. Agreements are still being made. They said the same thing with Cuba and Mexico. Within 24 hours, agreements are being made. Because the truth is, they know the consequences and they know they're responsible. And Joe Biden's offices didn't do shit with it except for open those negotiations and let it ride, as we kept getting charged more and more and more and more, and all of their trouble kept going across our borders to get free shit. And that's the truth. So now that we're in those negotiations, it's working to our advantage. And this all happened in 3 weeks. Our farmers are having next year starting this year actually, and through next year, our farmers are able to have more local food and produce. They're allowed to sell that food and produce to local distributors. Local distributors are allowed to utilize that without killing or destroying crops. Our resource borders are being increased. The one thing a lot of people don't know about, and I pointed this out, everybody thinks of Canada and they start thinking, well, what about this and what about that and what about this? But the realization with Canada is the major resource the Canadian government has, believe it or not, that we utilize every day is wood. And their cost on wood to transport to us was getting absolutely ridiculous, to the point to where we had to try to not only support our local lumber yards, but figure out other avenues to get wood. And that wood is a little bit cheaper because it's coming from other countries, where Canada has pretty substantially good wood and lumber. That's one of their major resources. They have a bunch of untapped mineral resources, oil and so forth, that obviously we're going to be interested in along with everybody else. Canada knows that. We know that. Europe knows that. It's always been a fact. And the Canadian government is over-exaggerating that now as we're trying to force the hand. Well, we're not going to force the hand, but we are going to discuss it, obviously. But if we can get the cost of lumber down, imagine how many homes are going to get built at cheaper costs, allowing less homeless and cheaper prices on mortgages and homes, flooding the market, as an example. These are the things you don't know about. So if we can reduce that gap and reduce the cost and bring more resources in on a win-win situation, then it's a smart thing to do, and will always be the smart thing to do. As you can see, I'm a businessman. The same thing as I mentioned about Greenland and other countries. Greenland is vastly untapped and is mostly a conglomeration of different rulers. Okay, it's not, Greenland is not just one organization. It's hard to explain, but so in order to do this and have a defense, because they have virtually no defense force themselves, they have to outsource to another country who's been doing pretty good for them. But they remain with a lot of resources that are untapped on a regular basis that could be utilized. So why not cut a deal with Greenland to utilize those resources and bring money into their country as well as defend them? It's a logical support tactic. It's not a tactic of war. Donald Trump is not a general, people. He's not a nutcase like Putin, okay? Sorry, Putin, but you are kind of fucking nutty. He's not, doesn't want to dominate the world by war and by death and by nuclear bombs. This destroys your resources. Why bother with that? It ruins them. If you can create a business deal, everybody fucking wins. And no guns are shot. And then you've got gold, and you got silver, and you got ore, and you got wood, and you got food, and all the countries work together, and they all make money. Now, will we see that money? Now, nothing's going to change for us. You'll see a few lowering prices here and there, and a few raising prices here and there because of the tariffs and so forth. But the country, in return, succeeds. And we have jobs, and we're happy, and we can travel around, and we're free. It's that simple. Business is a complicated world, okay? I deal with this on a regular basis. I'm dealing with this right now. First off, eventually, just so you guys know, in any world, you just become old and obsolete. That's me right now. I'm a great businessman. I can tell you how to stop a business 1,000 times, but I'm just becoming old and obsolete. Okay, the younger person that always thinks he knows more, the technology that they use, the yada 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 is always going to come in, and it's a constant struggle. The older you get, trying to stay up to date on all that, even though you know the numbers, you know how to do it, you know what you're doing. Nobody's going to listen because the data says this, because the numbers say this, because the kid's younger and can outlast you or outpitch you, because of this and that. It's 1,000 different things, but all of that is skewed in the first place. But when you get older, you just become obsolete unless you adapt to the situation. The second thing is it's an ever-growing situation of win-win and how you make the money. If I can get you something at a cheaper cost where you can mark it up at a better cost, you're going to do it. If I give you something at a higher cost and you have to mark it down lower, you're not going to do it. If I can succeed where nobody else does, no matter how old I am, you're still going to use me. Throughout my life, I've been several things. I've been a salesperson and a market person and a strategist. And my best job that I ever did was fixing things. That's right. I was a fixer. Now, fixing things in the business world is not quite what you think. I don't go hiding dead bodies. Probably. That's a joke. I don't go hiding dead bodies. But my job is to fix your situation. If you're plummeting, no matter what the situation is, I need to find your way out. I need to find out why you're failing, and I need to make it work. If I don't get paid. If I do, I get paid well. And for years, I got paid damn well to do that. And I'm still good at it. I'm just rusty. I did that for political reasons. I did that for business reasons. I did that for corporate reasons. I have worked for many people you have no idea about. And I'm very successful at it. Donald Trump is a fixer, okay? This is what he's doing. He's coming in and he's choosing the right people to fix the problem. And I can tell you from a business standpoint, guys, because I watch it every single day. If you choose the right people, you succeed. If you choose the wrong people, you don't. And you really got to observe that. You can't just walk away from it. The right people are on it every day of the week. But if you leave them on their own and they're not aware or know how to do one particular thing, no matter what it is, they're going to fail at that thing because when you brought them in, they were only good at this one. I see that every day in business. So America's kind of the same way. It's just the way it works. America has been a failing business for almost 50 years. We're going to find a lot of mess. It's just the way things work all around the board. So you need to prepare yourself for that situation, understand you're going to see it on both sides of the spectrum, and understand that though the past 10 years, give or take, it's been mostly Democratic, you're also going to see other situations where it's not quite as democratic as you think. They'll be on the flip side, but it will be the same thing. And I do encourage you to do that. I'm trying to think of other things that we're going to cover. I had a whole list of things I was going to cover, but I don't remember what it was now. So a couple of things that are going to happen here in the next 4 months. First off, I'm going out on tour, so we'll have to figure out how to make this work and the tour at the same time. You may see me live at a couple of locations over the summer. Secondly, there's a couple of different shows I have now decided to help promote. It may even be in one of them in a couple of episodes. And then I've got my TV show coming out that I want you guys to pay attention to. Now, one of these shows is on Scare Network. It's already been out. It's a documentary. We're going to start promoting that a little bit more so you guys know where to find it. I encourage you to look at it. It's a scientific version of the paranormal. I could get a kick out of it. One of these has nothing to do with the paranormal at all. And I'm going to have somebody on to pitch that in a little bit more, but it's kind of a meet your bucket list situation and how the people go about it to earn the funds and do what they do and yada, yada, yada. It's a fascinating approach. Hopefully it'll be picked up. It's going to start promoting primarily when you see it go out. It's going to be out live on YouTube every week, possibly on Carl's Friends TV channel as a start. Eventually we're going to be streaming it. I think I still have to negotiate with that, so I'm going to meet with them here in 2 or 3 weeks. The pilot's not even out yet to see what I can do there. So eventually it'll be streaming on maybe Netflix. I know it's going to be on Tubi, Freevee, and a few other things. It's not going to be exclusive anywhere, but maybe this television network, it might be a little exclusive for a while just because it'll help promote everybody and it's going to be a good show. So pay attention to that, and then pay attention to the History Channel, where you get to see my pretty little face here this summer, actually. I'm not allowed to disclose the name. I don't know why, but I will be on the History Channel, along with several other key faces, debunking the paranormal, telling you the truth. It's going to be a wild show. You're never going to see the paranormal the same again, just so you guys are aware. You're going to see things and understand things that for years people have built empires around, actually building devices and thinking they work and thinking this and that. You're actually going to find out the truths of this, which is probably going to kill a few people. Definitely going to kill their businesses. No offense. I expect it surprises me that they decided to put it on the History Channel, to be honest with you, because I think they're going to get sued for it. But you're going to realize what you've been seeing and doing for the past almost 20 years is almost 90% horseshit. I'm just going to tell you that. And some of you are going to just be astounded because the proof is right there in your face. 10% of it was always real. And the key with any of you that have been doing this for 30 or 40 years, 20 years, whatever it is you started to register that anyway. You started to throw away the devices and just not use them anymore. I don't know if you noticed that or not. And you use the cameras, but you just put this one away and you put this one away and you put this one away and you just didn't do this anymore. And you went back to your standard recorder and you went back to your standard camera and your basics. And you just stopped buying devices even though they look cool, and you stopped using apps because, you know, they sounded cool. Because you started to realize, wait a second here, I've been doing this for like 20 years and this ain't getting nowhere. So you get to see all of that firsthand, not from just me because I'm this big. I'm just this big. But from people this big and 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 this big. Some of them retired from TV shows that you watched for years. That's going to come out and tell you the truth. Approved by the networks, by the way, because this is their way of shutting down most paranormal shows. I told you guys it was coming. I told you guys it was necessary. I told you guys in the next 4 or 5 years you would see less and less paranormal TV shows. I was right? And the reason for that is the reality TV and the niche and the loving blah, blah, blahs are just kind of out of the way. People just don't care anymore. They caught on it was fake. So now you get to see why it was fake, why it created a recreational thing that everybody enjoys every year. And you also get a firsthand experience on some of the biggest bullshit statements on how equipment works and so forth throughout that process. And I think you're going to enjoy it. So make sure you watch it. My cartoon is finished. I just got to figure out how to upload it. So I don't know how many milligrams it takes. But my cartoon, Paranormal Pops, is done. We might tweak it a little bit. The first episode is finished. You guys will see that here this summer. That's also going to go on Carl's TV network and probably be on Born TV and so forth. If you like it, watch it over and over again. We need to get the views so that we can produce more. Obviously, this first one is a test run, but I think you'll enjoy it. It's called Paranormal Pops. It's about a grandpa that was raised in the paranormal world and all the ridiculous nonsense and crap he's seen over the past 40 years throughout social media, and conferences, and it goes up to UFOs and all kinds of other crazy stuff as well. Including an introduction where they meet a wackadoo alien, and there's a crazy psychic medium lady, and of course you have the badass ghost crew that's all dressed in black, and the dumbass hillbilly that's got a cowboy hat, and I got. By the way, when you watch this, if any of you are in the paranormal, I'm just going to tell you, yes, there are bits and pieces of all of us in it, including me. So don't get pissed, and no, you can't sue me for it. But if you see a likeness that reminds you of you, it's probably because a piece of you is in it. Okay? Because let's face it, throughout the years, all of us that were average paranormal investigators were looking at these above average wannabes on TV and stream and YouTube and so forth. And how many times, guys, have you just sit there and went, oh my God. So I put it all into cartoon. So when you're watching this as an average paranormal investigator, you're going to laugh your ass off because you're going to go, I know who that one was. And you probably met them, and you probably shook their hands, and you're probably friends with them. And those of you that you see your likeness in it, it probably is your likeness. I'm not going to lie about it. It's not exactly you. I probably combined you with 2 or 3 other people, but that one moment probably was your likeness. And you should be honored by that. If that cartoon ever hit on Cartoon Network and took off all over the place, your likeness, along with everybody else's likeness, making fun of the paranormal the way it should be made fun of for the ridiculousness, is going to hit skyrocket and go crazy. I was thinking about doing a political one too, to be honest with you, but everybody's done to death political cartoons. I don't think it would sell. And then we got Wham Bam, thank you, ma'am. Well, it's just called Wham Bam. But we're going to be doing a short 15-minute plot called Wham Bam over the summer. Wham Bam is basically just doing crazy shit. We're doing experiments. I think I told you guys we're doing an actual EMP pump and creating an EMF bomb and setting it off in a field. I'm actually going to do a silly one that's You ever seen one of the big punching gloves? The extra large punching gloves? I'm going to do a punching glove cannon and we're going to shoot at each other. So we're going to do that and sit down and also do some crazy experiments and so forth. You're going to have fun with a lot of that. And we're going to be following politics pretty closely here in Ohio. Last week I had the privilege of sitting down on conference call. It was supposed to be for lunch, but it didn't happen that way because he was spending time in the corner of Ohio with the train disaster people and the chemical spill and everything. I had the great privilege of doing a conference call with the Vice President of America, J.D. Vance, great man, by the way, to say thank you for helping out with, it wasn't just me. There were, I think, 27 or 28 others on the call, so it wasn't just me. To thank us all for joining the Immigration Control Committee here in the state of Ohio. I start on Monday. I'm going to 2 camps part-time, one in Mansfield and one in Marion. And I'm going to do this in between my day job. And our job is to come in with local police department or local federal departments, depending on the situation, reevaluate the immigration standards by talking to the immigrants, seeing if they are licensed, if they've registered. And by the way, I'm actually bringing a tablet with me so that if they choose to register for citizenship, they can still stay. So this idealism that we're just forcing people out in chains and arresting them and throwing them on planes and being rude to them is not the case. We're going in with tablets, and we're asking them if they want to be U.S. citizens, and if they want to start the registration process, they can delay the process of being shipped home and provide their information. Then we do a background check and a research check to make sure they have no criminal backgrounds within the first 24 hours on that. If they do, then we come back in along with everybody else in the camp that has refused to, and we seize them within the next 24 hours. And then we deport them, or we don't. So it's not like we're being terrible here. We're not yanking people out of their homes just to do it. If they're in the registration process, it's no big deal. If they want to register to be a United States citizen, they're allowed to do that. And if the background checks come back, it's no big deal. Things along those lines. So everybody should be aware that what you're being told is only a quarter of the story. You got Democrats on a fire over here because you're seeing us on fire over here, showing you pictures of the hundreds of people going out of states on a daily basis, and they are. We're a late bloomer here. Some of these countries are taking thousands out a day already, but they're not going out in chains, and they're not. The idea here is to hunt down the cartels and the criminals and the people that shouldn't be here in the first place, and get the handful of people that just did come over here because they wanted asylum or they wanted a better life, and let them have their chance. And that's literally I just went through 5 days of training, and that's literally one of the moral codes that's in your philosophy for this office. Okay. The office states, I think on 3 or 4, that your responsibility is to help hunt down the illegals, criminals, and cartels, and allow those that want to truly be Americans the chance to become Americans and apply to be an American citizen. So you should be proud of these people doing this, because they're risking their life. I went plainclothes into 5 of these camps to reevaluate here in the state of Ohio alone, and I can tell you 2 of those camps are well armed. So it's not an easy job, and it's not a safe job either, because you can get shot or stabbed. You'd be surprised how many of these people don't carry guns, but they got buck knives and machetes on them. No joke. And they walk around freely with them all day long. Hopefully it helps. Let's see. We're at almost 9 here, so I'm going to do the commercial, then we'll bounce back and we'll talk for the next 15 minutes or so, and then I think I'll let off early if we don't have anybody coming in.
For the past 6.5 years, Paula and Gavin have traveled the U.S. to investigate the mysterious, the unknown, and the paranormal. They were always outsiders, only able to experience events through their own eyes. On their next journey, they joined forces with 6 investigative paranormal teams across the country to explore their local legends side by side. Join us as we learn the stories, meet the teams, and gather the evidence to determine if these tales are truth or legend.
Sweet. So let's talk about, I just pulled up the article. I won't show it to you, but the federal judge, by the way, is Paul Engelmeyer. He was chosen by Obama. He's a federal judge in the state of New York that's defying the National Treasury and Donald Trump from receiving the receipts. First off, that's illegal. He can't do that. He can say no, but we just issue a warrant, so he's buying time. But I just wanted you to know the guy's name because, first off, he kind of looks like a dork. He's half bald and he's kind of an idiot, but that's beside the point. The other thing that I wanted to address a little bit before we leave is, so what's the next steps here? Obviously, you're seeing the Democratic parties try to group together as much as possible in their chaos because they're trying to figure out how they screwed up. Well, that's pretty easy. You just were too damn dumb. And they're trying to go against Donald Trump. Obviously, that's going to fail. He's not going to listen to him, and neither are any of the courts authorities or supreme judges. So what's their last effort? Well, the same thing that was the last effort for us, which we, thank God, never got to, but we almost got there. And that is to secede from the states. So these senators and governors in these Democratic states can secede from the United States. They can declare war if they want to. They're going to fail, but they can. We almost came to it, just so you guys are aware. Texas was, and they got talked down twice, but they were 3 days from declaring secession from the United States of America and going to war against the Democratic government last year. The state of Ohio, Governor DeWine ignored it, but the state of Ohio was forcing secession for 4 months last year, and several other states. So we almost got there, but we didn't get there. So the Democratic government does have a choice of secession of the United States of America to separate for civil war. And it would institute a very quick civil war at this point because I just don't think the Democrats are powerful enough or smart enough to start a war. They're book smart. They know how to move around funds. You're starting to catch that now. And they tried to utilize that for perhaps one of the best, largest insurrections in the known United States history, which you're going to find out. So our last war, believe it or not, was not a war of guns and demands through force. Our last war was a political paperwork war. We had and I don't know how to state that. I guess you could say it's a legal civil war. We actually suffered for the past 4 to almost 8 years, even in Donald Trump's, we were still dealing with it. Legal civil war. Trying to rewrite our constitutional laws, trying to overrule judgmental laws, trying to go above the Supreme Court, and refaction the United States of America into what they wanted. So the only way to win at this point would be to literally separate the United States of America and refaction it to what they want and not what we want. So they could do that. I don't think it's going to happen. I just don't think they're strong enough. I don't think they're smart enough. I don't think they're powerful enough. I do believe you're going to see a couple of attempted assassinations with President Trump here in the next 4 years again. And you're probably going to see a push on impeachment that's going to fail, a push to try to win House and Senate. And who knows, they might win one of them. I think it's a slim chance this time. But, in order to keep things equal, no party should control House, Senate, and presidency. So if they do, they do. If they don't, they don't. We're going to have the Senate. We're going to have the president again. So it doesn't really matter if they have the House, to be frankly honest with you. You ain't going to fucking get them anywhere. But I think they're going to try that. And they're going to lick their wounds for 4 more years and try to figure out how to take back control. And I don't think that they're going to take back control in 4 more years. I think J.D. Vance is probably going to be your next president. But who knows? So just so you guys are kind of aware of what's going on right now, there's a lot of rampage from each side of it. First off, the extreme conservatives, also called MAGA supporters a lot of times. I still don't understand that. Making America great is not a bad thing. But apparently it's been called an organization, and people have taken hand on it and said, yes, I am. The extreme supporters on the Republican side are going at it and claiming that we're still at war and the Democrats are going to declare war. And I don't think that's the case. I just think they're a bunch of pussies. It's not going to happen. And then the liberal side is talking about how the neo-Nazis are going to take control and destroy everything, and we should take them out and shoot them and blah, 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 blah. Well, that'll fall to the wayside because I don't know if you've been paying attention to social media, but most of these liberal retards get cut down as quick as they spit out because people like me don't take that shit. I just put up a post this week that said, if you're not a patriot, get the hell off my page. I don't want to talk to you anymore. And it's not that you can't have a democratic opinion. I don't care about all that. That's part of America. But when you're downtreading without proof, any presidential official or any official that I took an oath to support, get the fuck off my page. You're a waste of time. Okay? I supported Joe Biden until I couldn't anymore because it's my oath. And if we would have went to war, I would have still defended that president. I don't believe in him and I don't like him. But if another country were to come to invade me, I would still defend my president because I have to. It's my job. I'm a patriot. I'm not doing it for Joe Biden. I'm doing it for the United States of America. Okay? And I don't even like the guy. He's the first president I couldn't support at all, no matter what. You should still be doing the same thing for Trump. You should still be supporting him until he shows otherwise, and he hasn't shown otherwise. In fact, this week alone, he showed you that his so-called insurrection is bullshit. You just didn't pay attention to it. We have found, by the way, guys, proof that money went into fraudulently adjusting political poll systems that were all over all the major political poll systems, not just one now, by the way, that were all over the internet, giving you fake representation. And we have also just finally pulled the fact that the people in control of the Pennsylvania poll system, by the way, got paid, and they got paid to ignore the fact that people were registered in 2 different states, and some of the people that actually voted in Pennsylvania at the time weren't even a resident of Pennsylvania. They had a summer home in Pennsylvania, so they could vote in their state and also vote in Pennsylvania, so they did. In other words, they faked it. Okay? This is something we've been saying for, 6 years? 5 years? Ever since it happened? So you're going to find this shit out, and you better believe it, because it's true. You're also going to find out, they just released some of it down, what I and other people were under restricted policy to not say anything about, that about 75% of what you were told during the SARS-CoV-2 and the COVID crisis was false information presented and pushed by the Democratic government and forced sometimes by House politicians that were Democratic. You're going to find this out. Now, I didn't know who forced it. All I know is the information was bullshit. We went in one way here in Ohio, and then we would get press releases from the Capitol that said the House and Senate has decided we're not allowed to say that, and you could go to jail if you did. Now you're going to find out that some of those House and senators that passed those bills were Democratic senators voting and pushing against Donald Trump's regulations at the time to state that the American people needed to know it this way. And backed by the CDC director, Mr. Fauci. Isn't that ironic? So now you know why his pardon came through. So you're going to find out a lot of stuff that you're not going to be happy with on either side, and good. You needed to. You have no idea how many times I was threatened in the past 5 years, and sometimes scared, just because of what I knew about COVID-19. Just because I worked on a department at home, moving documents to make sure certain people got them. I literally had SUVs parked outside my house on a daily basis at one point because they thought I was going to blow the whistle. And they weren't just going to arrest me. They were going to arrest my daughter and my wife for treason if I opened my mouth. So you think that this stuff is make-believe. I can tell you it's not. You're also going to find in the release of social media manipulation, Mr. Zuckerberg himself is actually going to testify against the Democratic government. He's already stated he's going to. And release several things on it. So while you were standing there, including myself, talking about how Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook was destroying freedom of speech and that they were 100% liberal, what you didn't realize is he was under a gag order from the federal government issued by Joe Biden himself. And he was literally told if they didn't shut up and go this direction, that he was going to go to prison. That's what you're going to find out. So the president you supported for the past 4 years, liberals, you fucked up. Because he supported Democratic agendas, and you're going to find it out. It's already out. It's already out. Just look. It's already out. They're already talking about the trials beginning on the social media incursion and several other things that you're going to see coming out here in the next year. I'm just prepping you ahead of time. Okay? So a lot of what both sides had was not exactly the truth, except for the fact that we knew, all of us knew, that we weren't being told the whole story and we were being pitted against each other. We knew that, right? Well, now you're going to get most of the story. Except for the drones. You're not going to get all the story on the drones. And I wish I could tell you that whole story. Because, believe it or not, it is a success story for the United States of America. But if that story were to fully be told, then again, you're admitting situations that are not only national security, but could cause issues overseas. And just think of it this way. Even if we save your life tomorrow, anywhere in a situation here, can we tell the whole world, including the people in the nation, how close they were to die? If we do, you're going to lose faith in us and you're going to panic. And then we have to admit why, which is generally a little bit our fault anyway. So you're never going to get the whole story there. Just like you didn't get the whole story about the fact that the American dollar was going to crash overnight when Obama was in control. And because he made a deal with the Paris Accords, we ended up funded to keep the banks going, which most of you don't know about even still today. But during Obama's control, we came real close to waking up tomorrow, the whole nation, and not being able to access any money at all. The United States Federal Reserves, the bank and everything, was at negative numbers. There was no money anywhere. And there was no Federal Reserve left to take care of it. Just so you guys know. He made a deal with the Paris Accords and several other countries to refund the United States of America overnight. We didn't have to worry about it. Nobody ever heard of the wiser. But if you do your research, you'll find out it was true. So those of you that diss Obama, because I didn't much like him either, he did save your life. You just didn't know it. So you're never going to hear the whole story about the drone activity. But understand, they were harmless to you. They were out there for a reason. They were a combination of several things. First off, panic and other people running drones. And then secondly, drones that were test drones looking for very specific reasons to do very specific things. And it worked. And you got to live around another day. Welcome to the United States of America. Keep me in my happy bubble. And I'm okay with that. You know what? As far as I'm concerned with my government, they could go around killing people in the shades all day long, as long as you keep me in my happy bubble. I like my happy bubble. I can drive around without getting shot. I don't have to worry about getting bombed from another country. I can be free to make money. I can be free to live. I can grow. I can die. I can buy. That's pretty damn cool. Keep me in my happy bubble. All right, I think I'm going to jump out of here at about 9 o'clock. I was going to bring Mr. Myers in, but it looks like he's backed up. He's having some phone problems, so he's not able to jump in. So we'll talk to him. Probably I'm going to try to get him in next week. We'll have him talk about what he's been doing, what to expect, and so forth before he heads out to California. So tune in next week. We will be back on to No BS. Other than that, keep tuned into the news. Start looking into things. Enjoy your life. Kick back a little bit. Hopefully we don't have some stress. Don't forget to feed the cocaine bear. He's right back there. Cocaine bear. And enjoy your life, guys. Peace out.